Greetings, Anaheim geographers. It's Mr. Majewski here with you. We're about ready to embark on our inaugural, original PowerPoint journey online through Haiku and YouTube. We're going to start with religion, so I would encourage you to of course, download the PowerPoint from Haiku. Follow along as I go through it. Of course, if you have these slides printed out as well, I would encourage you to follow along there additionally. If you have any questions on the PowerPoint or on the religion unit, of course, you should place them in the comment section on our Haiku page. I will do my very best to indicate to you when we switch a slide so that you can follow along and know to move along as well on your particular computer. Let's begin. Of course, this religion PowerPoint starts again with a key term page. Some of the most important terms from the unit that we will be covering. Of course, you see some of the most important symbols of some of the various world religions on the right side of this page as well. Moving along to slide 2. Slide 2 again shows you a map of the world. It shows you the countries in the world divided up according to their religious beliefs. What I mean there is, you see the red countries on this map, they technically have no official religion, state religion. The gold countries on this map do have a state religion. You're going to notice many of those located in North Africa and the Middle East. We can assume, therefore, the state religion, of course, is... You got it, Islam. The gray countries on this map, and ambiguous. We're unable to tell. There's not enough data. Perhaps the country's leadership favors one religion without maybe giving it official status. All right. Anyways, we can move on to the next slide. And of course, love this slide. We've got some religious landscapes here for you. Look, religion is a major part of people's lives. It's a major part of people's culture. It's a major part of course, their belief system, their mentefacts. As you can see here, we see some examples of that. On the left, you can see, of course, a Mexican image, or a shrine, if you will, to the Virgin Mary. Of course, that's a Catholic tradition. I love Ned Flanders there, the image of him. If you watch The Simpsons, he's considered an evangelical Christian, sometimes known as a born-again Christian, Protestant. The Wailing Wall, considered the most important, top right, the Wailing Wall. It's considered the most important image or place that remains for the Jewish faith. They come to the Wailing Wall, they pray against it, they leave holy scriptures in the cracks of it. Again, this is one of the perfect examples of how religions sometimes are located in the same place, religious sites, and it can lead to incredible conflict between various groups. On the bottom there, you can see a Hindu temple located in India as well. You're going to notice, I should say, a Muslim mosque there. On the bottom image, you can see the minarets, the towers jutting up from the top. You can see the dome there as well. Folks, next slide. Let's move on to, again, there's a wide variety of religions around the world. Most are classified according to a couple of categories. We did cover these in class before we left for the break. The first category is monotheistic. They believe in one God or higher power. They simply refer to their God as God. All right, there's only one. There are not multiples. Christianity, Islam, are both considered great examples of a monotheistic faith. Alrighty, there's just one God, as of course the holy books, the Bible, and the Quran indicate. Polytheistic faiths believe in multiple gods. They worship or venerate multiple gods. Of course, the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, ancient Egypt as well. We like to say that the Hindu faith is polytheistic again. While they technically only worship one God, the God takes many, many different shapes or forms. Finally, we have animistic faiths. Animistic faiths are usually ancient religions, oftentimes still practiced by native groups. They believe that inanimate objects, oftentimes like mountains or trees, possess life, spirit, holy energy. I shouldn't say holy, but spiritual energy. Usually they're smaller groups, again, mostly hunters and gatherers. We still have some small little isolated groups of animists around the world, usually in sub-Saharan Africa, maybe Central or South America. Of course, Native Americans, American Indians, Australians, Aborigines, Native Australians. All of these groups still practice traditions related to animist faith. Again, the Holy Spirit, the sky, the mountain, the tree, sometimes even animals or beings like, the jaguar, the panther, the buffalo, the bear. All of these things can be venerated by animist faiths and given special status. Again, we always think of the movie Avatar when we think of animist faiths, right? With the Maquis, the blue people. and the relationship with the tree of life, right? That was very much predicated on animist faith. Again, there are 4 hearths for non-animist religions. So we believe that most of the organized world religions that exist today, they really generated from 4 places. Let's start with number 1, the Mediterranean Sea. Alrighty. Of course, we should probably remember, the ancient Greeks technically are considered to be an organized religion. So dating back there, the Mediterranean and maybe the northern Mediterranean, the parts of Greece today. South Asia, hey, both Hinduism and Buddhism are both going to originate in South Asia, really almost in the same area, in the area of northern India, right, in kind of Nepal, Tibet, right there in the Himalayan mountains. Also the Eastern Mediterranean, all right, that's where we're going to get Judaism. Of course, Judaism is the forefather, I guess you could say. It's the trailblazer to Christianity, and then later on Islam. All 3 of these religions are absolutely linked together. They go back to the same source, the same individual. We call them the Abrahamic religions because they all stem from the same person, Abraham, who was considered to be one of the founders of the Jews. Finally, in East Asia, in what will later be China, we see a 4th hearth. That, of course, is going to be the Chinese religions, the Eastern philosophies, Taoism, Confucianism. Later on, Shintoism is going to emerge in Japan. These are more local. I should say they're located in Eastern Asia. They're going to be very syncretic. They're going to blend together with Buddhism. So today, most people in Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, they kind of practice a combination of these old traditional East Asian religions along with Buddhism or Shintoism in Japan. Let's move on to the distribution of religions. Next slide. Of course, you've got those universalizing religions. I told you this is kind of the second way we divide them up into the universalizing versus ethnic. Universalizing religions exist all over the world. They do not necessarily dominate in one area. They're just as likely to spread everywhere. To all of the regions than necessarily more towards one. They try to bring new members into their faith. They try to become universal. They try to actively spread as much as possible and convince people to join their faith. Ethnic religions are very different. It's more of not just faith, it's not just a religion. To many ways, your Hinduism or an ethnic faith is more part of your culture, it's more part of your way of life. Members are usually born into an ethnic religion. They're not converted into it. Now, they'll take converts, they'll take people who join who want to come, but they don't actively seek them out. Usually you're born into Hinduism, you're born into Judaism, you're born into these ethnic faiths, and you're raised as part of your culture, part of your way of life. All right, it's very similar to folk culture in some ways, in that you're trained, you're taught it from an early age. Again, Judaism, Hinduism, Shintoism are all considered to be ethnic religions. They're centered in one place more than others. And then finally, the tribal religions, animism, shamanism. Remember, the shaman was the religious leader in many of these tribes. All right. Let's move on. Next slide. How do universalizing and ethnic religions differ? Well, we covered this in class. Let's go over it again because it is a tremendous slide. Left, universalizing religions. First, they appeal to people everywhere. Again, we already mentioned that. Ethnic religions, they usually have more of a meaning in a particular place or location. So therefore, they're going to dominate more in one area. Think about Hinduism when we look at the map on the next page. You're going to notice India is where it's located. It's not spread much out of there. Japan with Shintoism as well, and Judaism even more so. It's located in Israel, in certain parts of Europe, and then in certain cities in the United States more than anywhere else. Universalizing religions have an individual founder. We know who that is. He's a prophet, and their followers follow the words, the teachings of that prophet. It's not the case with ethnic religions. We're not sure usually where ethnic religions originated from, where they generated. They're more mysterious, they're more ancient, they're more unknown. Universalizing religions also use missionaries. They diffuse their message widely in an effort to try to convert people. And they use missionaries, individuals who actively go out and try to seek to convert people. We actually have missionaries come to our house and knock on our doors sometimes. I don't know if you realize that's technically a missionary trying to convert you from one faith to another as well. They do that all around the world as well. A lot of times churches will spend a lot of money in less developed countries to try to raise the quality of life to convince people to become friendly with their church. In an ethnic faith, They don't really use missionaries. The content, the religious messages, are usually more centered on that place itself and on the landscape where it originated. Maybe specific rivers are holy, maybe specific mountains or areas, specific holy sites are venerated. And so therefore it's more tied or attached to a particular region. In a universalizing faith, look, you're going to have worshipers usually that are distributed widely over multiple regions, over maybe the entire world. Not the case with ethnic, again, oftentimes clustered in certain areas or just maybe one area of the world. In the universalizing faiths, again, holidays are usually based on important events in the founder's life. Christmas is a great example. Ramadan is one of the holiest days and months, actually, in the Islamic faith, based on important events in Muhammad's journey when he discovered Islam. Buddha Day actually is one of the most significant days in Buddhism as well, of course, and that is the day when the founder, Siddhartha Gautama, finally decides, or I shouldn't say decide, finally discovers and becomes, if you will, this Buddha figure. Okay? In ethnic faith, it's very different. The holidays are oftentimes based on agriculture, agricultural practices. Hanukkah, for instance, from one growing season to another. A lot of harvest festivals, again, growing festivals that reflected, again, changes maybe from the planting season to the harvest season, maybe to the cold season or the winter as well. Okay, next image here, we got the geography of religion. Again, love this slide, love it so much. You have a full color copy of this, and that's why I gave it to you. Again, please notice, for instance, the difference between the universalizing faiths and the ethnic faiths in terms of their distribution. All right, take a look, for instance, at the Roman Catholic faith or just the Christian religions, and look how widely distributed they are around the world. Please compare that with Hinduism. It's pink on the map, and you'll notice, India, a little bit of Bangladesh as well there, but as you can see, it's very isolated. It's very clustered. Again, Judaism as well. You're going to have to search for Israel. Look for it. It's a little purple blemish. Not blemish, bad word. It's the purple spot, I guess you could say, right there in the Middle East, surrounded by all that gray. All right, surrounded by all that Islam. Excellent example here of the distribution differences between ethnic and universalizing faiths. Let's move on. Religious landscapes. Hey, I got some great religious landscapes here for you from various groups. We see a Hindu temple there in the top. We see a site on the left there that's very holy or symbolic to natives, to Aborigines in Australia. And then we can see another temple as well. That appears to me to be a Sikh temple. They are a small universalizing faith located primarily in India. Anyways, religious landscapes. Look, sacred structures exist for most organized religions, temples or pagodas a lot of times in the Hindu faith. Of course, they're usually rectangular. You had a reading about this. Oftentimes they're made out of stone. In many places, with the temple at least, there are multiple levels to it, almost like a mini pyramid shape. You get with the pagoda. The pagoda is usually more common with the Eastern religions in Asia. It's common with Shintoism. Oftentimes, again, there are multiple levels. It looks like a big tower. One thing that you'll notice with pagodas is the roofs. The roofs are thatched or curved. They usually jut out in a very kind of, it's a beautiful looking image, but it's kind of curved roofs, and each level gets a little lesser and lesser the higher you go. Alrighty, almost like, again, like a little mini pyramid of smaller and smaller houses built on top of each other. The Catholic faith, of course, sacred structures, churches, and basilicas. I should say the entire Christian faith. The Catholic Church a lot of times uses basilicas, which are just massive, massive churches. Large cathedrals as well. Cathedrals would usually have 2 bell towers. These were supposed to dominate. They were supposed to show the power, the impressiveness of the Catholic faith. A lot of times Protestant churches will use a more simplistic, in one single steeple instead of the 2 bell towers. It'll be a much more simplistic looking church. Oftentimes Catholic churches and Orthodox churches were made out of stone or brick. Protestant churches a lot of times were made out of wood. And then finally the Islamic mosque. As we know, the dome is almost always prominently featured. A dead giveaway for Islamic sites are these minarets, these towers, oftentimes where smoke fires were lit, and certain colored smoke would flow from them. Of course, no artwork in mosques either. It's an affront to Muhammad to have any images of him. Or any particular pictures or holy scenes. All you're going to see are like designs and shapes in Islamic mosques. Of course, the Jews as well have synagogues. There's not as much unique detail with synagogues. They vary from place to place to place. Again, sacred sites might be mountains, they might be rivers, even caves, if you really think about it. Sometimes in many of these early religions, caves were significant. I know that's the case with Islam. In certain instances, it was the case with Christianity as well. Places with a sense of place for a religious group are called sacred sites that have special symbolic significance to them, that are particularly important, particularly revered. Mecca in Israel, in Islam, Mecca and Medina are the two most holy cities. They're where Muhammad came up with many of his original discoveries, where he kind of developed his original teachings, where he supposedly received all of these messages. Jerusalem as well is holy and significant. Obviously for Jews, it's considered, Judea the homeland for the Jews. It's also significant for Christians, as you know, because Jesus himself was born. He lived in the Jerusalem area. Of course, Bethlehem is particularly significant to Christians as well. Nazareth as well. Alrighty, these are the hometowns, the birthplaces of Jesus. Alright. Of course, the Ganges River is very sacred to the Hindus. People are expected to visit and even bathe in the Ganges River. Again, great example of how an ethnic faith will have a particular river or area within that country as its sites, its most sacred site. Most all of the sacred sites in ethnic faiths like Hinduism are located in that one kind of region or area of the world. Think about it, natives have very sacred sites as well. Again, the Great Rock, the Great Mountain, oftentimes they would give names to these. In Hawaiian culture, the volcanoes were given particular names. They were revered, they were worshipped as well. That's technically a sacred site as well. Alrighty, burial mounds, burial grounds can be sacred sites to many faiths. What are some common features, by the way, next slide, the commonalities of holy locations. What are some common features of these places, of these holy sites? Well, they often dominate the landscape. There's going to be majestic, powerful architecture that can be noticed from miles and miles away. Oftentimes much higher in terms of the level, the stories than surrounding buildings. Maybe perched on mountains or hills or peaks to show off the power, the height, the majesty of this faith. Structures would dominate the landscape. There might be spirals, towers, big roofs dominating. In Islam, oftentimes giant domes and minarets, which again are those little miniature towers that surround the mosque that tend to point towards the sky. Oftentimes religious sites are located in the center of the city or the village. They're a gathering place. They're the center, figuratively and literally, of society, of culture in that place. This was particularly the case throughout most of human history when church and religion played a larger role in people's lives. The structure was often used as a reference point. So again, it was placed in the middle of the city or the town. It might be placed at the center of crossroads where roads met. It was a reference point. You need to go to the mosque if you don't know where you're going, and then they'll be able to direct you from city to city. Alrighty. Let's move on. What's the purpose of a holy place? It's a place of worship and teaching. It varies from religion to religion. I want you to think about this. In Christianity, it's a place of worship and teaching. You're supposed to attend church on a regular basis to get the religious message. Alrighty. In Islam, a mosque is a place for prayer, large open spaces, no places to sit a lot of the time, huge open areas where people can get on their knees and pray next to one another on their prayer rugs. In Hinduism, in many of the places, in Shintoism, in the Eastern religions, it's a building to house relics and artifacts. You don't worship inside the house of worship, so they're small, they're narrow, they go up very tall. They're not designed to accommodate groups of people whatsoever. A lot of times, the house, the design, the architecture of the religious site was predicated on what its purpose, what its use was going to be. And so therefore it explains the differences in design, the differences in size, the differences in dimensions. Folks, that wraps up Religion PowerPoint 1.